Hello and welcome to Let the Bird Fly, a podcast about living freely in a world given back to us. This is Wade here in the podcast studio for another session of Faith Fitness Fellowship Formation. Michael and Jason are away. Jason's daughter is getting married this week, and so he's understandably a little busy with that. And Michael is abroad. And so I am trying to be very productive so that when they are back around, they are very impressed with everything that I have gotten done, which is included getting back to some of these sessions that I had been working on in the spring. Yesterday I recorded the fifth session of this series, Faith Fitness Fellowship Formation, and I talked about the importance of rest. Before that, if you go back, you'll see the first one was on wake-up calls, where I talked about kind of how I ended up on this fitness journey of the last year. The next one was on numbers. What numbers do I find it helpful to track? What numbers do I find it less helpful to track? The third was on strength training and cardio, where I talk about the benefits of both, and if you had to pick one, which one I would pick and why. The fourth was on walk, water, sun, the importance of making sure you get your steps in and to stay hydrated, and if you can get your steps in, to get them in outside. Then again, as I mentioned last time, I talked about the importance of rest yesterday, and today I want to pick up and talk a little bit about goals and gains. I don't want to spoil the cardio and strength training session for you, but if you go back and listen, you'll see that I put strength training first, and for a number of reasons. It's better for your metabolism. You're getting work in, benefits from the workout, that is, throughout the day, not just when you're doing it. It's going to help your body not go into survival mode if you're overdoing the cardio, but also just for longevity. And for me, with diabetes now in remission, but with diabetes, to help with focusing on insulin resistance and the problems that can come in that regard, I have found strength training to be the one I would pick if I only have time in a day for one or the other, although I'm going to get at least 10,000 steps a day if I can do so. But let's talk today about goals and gains, because if you're setting out to accomplish something, you have to know what it is you want to accomplish, and everyone's going to have to go approach fitness differently based on what they want out of it. The 16-year-old who's training for the football season is going to be approaching it differently than the 25-year-old who wants to run their first obstacle course or marathon, or just be really good at tennis or pickleball, versus the 40-year-old like myself in my mid-40s who is focused on longevity, long-term health. I want to be able to maintain mobility, to do things I enjoy. Hopefully, if the Lord gives me grandkids, to be picking them up and wrestling with them and having fun, to be able to keep up with them if I'm trying to play with them. So longevity and mobility, and then I like lifting weights. It's something I enjoyed in the past, and getting back into it, I enjoy it even more. And so my goals have shifted a bit too, to where I do want to make gains in the gym. I want to lift heavier weights, and I want to do it with good form, hopefully, and I want to get better and better at it. And that means that where I'm at now isn't where I was a year ago. A year ago, my goals were focused first and foremost on getting the diabetes in remission, getting my very high blood pressure back down, some of the other stuff, heartburn, other things that were attendant issues, dealing with those. And I've had a fair amount of success by God's grace, and by putting in the work so far with that I'm at a place now where I'm actually not trying to lose more weight right now. I'm reverse dieting, trying to let my metabolism recover from what it's gone through in the past year, and to make sure I'm fueling myself to get the most out of my workouts, out of my lifts when I am there. And so as my goals shift, what I consider gains shifts. There was a time where my lifts maybe weren't going to go up, but that was okay because I wanted my weight to go down and I wanted my endurance to improve. And the focus was the immediate health issues I was facing. Now that I actually am experiencing a bit what it actually is like to feel well, I want to do things well when I'm feeling well. And so I do want to get those lifts better. And in kind of reverse dieting, not aiming to gain weight, but to maintain. And if I'm staying the same weight, but I'm getting stronger, right, to increase muscle mass, and hopefully still losing some fat. But in trying to maintain that balance, which means allowing myself a little bit more calories, although still I watch what I'm preparing, and this is another thing in the past year. I've learned to cook and to do food prep so that I know what's in my food and what I'm getting, and I can balance my macros to make sure I'm getting enough protein and not overdoing the carbs are the big things. But something for you, if you're thinking about trying to improve your health and getting fit, the first thing you want to do is really set your goals, because we can't have all the things. You're going to have to pick a few things to focus on. What are the main things, the main numbers you want to reach, the main tasks that you want to accomplish, and then gains fall in that realm. I like going to old kind of meathead, blood and gut gyms, and the one I go to, I just love, and there's a whole diverse group of people there, and there's people who are they're there like me, primarily as I was a year ago, just for health, to improve their health. There's people who are bodybuilders. There's people who are power lifters. People with all different sorts of goals, and so they're doing all different sorts of lifts with all sorts of different weights. And the bodybuilder's not upset if he's not lifting as much as the power lifter, right? Although the power lifter would be upset, I suppose, if he wasn't lifting as much as the bodybuilder. And the person who's just trying to improve themselves and get back in shape or improve some of their health metrics is worried about doing things that are aimed at that. And no one's sitting there looking down on each other. In fact, it's very positive. You're going to get fist bumped if you're in there. No matter what you're doing, you're going to have someone encouraging you. But it's because the recognition that everyone in there has different goals, and they see their gains in that light. Squatting for me, as someone who had very seriously injured my knee a few years ago, getting better depth squatting has been a big thing. And so I don't have depth like my son has when he squats, or my daughter and son-in-law when they go with me. But I do have better depth than I did before. And someone else looking at me might think, well, he could get lower on his squat. I'm rejoicing that I'm getting as much lower as I used to before. Those are gains, and I wouldn't have that if I just went heavy on every rep and then half repped and didn't focus on sometimes going lighter and really focusing on depth. And so it's your goals that help you have the confidence to aim towards your gains. I think sometimes people get nervous about getting in the gym or getting out and exercising because they think, well, what will other people think? And I think there's a connection here to the church, because I remember sometimes in the parish I would talk to people who hadn't been there in quite a while, and I always enjoyed those visits, and I don't think they came across as intimidating in any way, and some of them were great blessings to me. But often they would say, well, what would people think? They had this big fear that they would go to church and then people would be watching them and concerned about their spiritual health or their gains in a judgmental way. And what almost always is what would happen is they showed up and they got the equivalent of the fist bump in the gym. People were just happy to see them. And the people who were happy to see them were people who knew that they were there because they were sinners in need of grace. Just as in the gym, we all know that we're people in need of exercise, in need of addressing our health. And so if that's keeping you away from a gym or from being out in the park, just know that what matters is your goals and your gains in regard to those goals. And you're actually going to find a lot of people who will appreciate and admire what you're doing when they see the commitment. Something that sometimes will happen with me at the gym is the people there, they've seen me over this whole year, and they recognize there's less of me now, and that I'm doing things, I'm able to do things I wasn't able to do before. And it's not that they're more supportive now, but I've had a number who will say, man, watching you work on this, has been a lot of fun. And they're happy to see the gains I've made based on the goals I had. They were just as happy, though, to see me in there on day one. And in fact, if I had questions about things, I noticed you doing this, what's the benefit of that? They were very much willing to help. And so this is going to be true in every aspect of life, the physical, the mental, and spiritual, that we want to set our goals and then we look for the gains. Now, in the spiritual, we're not talking about gains. Sanctification is not the same as building muscle, but there are similarities. The Lord goes to work on us through His Word and for the good of our neighbor. And as the Lord goes to work on us, he tells us what our goals in life should be, and that is outward focused. It is the journey to heaven, which is a fulfilled promise already in God's sight. It is love for neighbor, and that love that's been modeled for us in Christ. And God goes to work on us and then works through us to give us opportunities to do that for neighbor. And the same is true mentally as well, and with mental health. Uh, what is the end goal? If as a Christian, my end goal is one day being in heaven and seeing God and being known and knowing Him and being in perfect community with neighbor, well, that's going to frame everything that I do in the present. And so also with our physical health, well, where do I want to be? And we got to be realistic. Heaven's going to be what heaven is because God has said it is what it is, and it's not going to be something of my imagination. It's His gift to me. My health will be what it is. I don't get to just, snap my fingers and make it be. But health, just like heaven, just like forgiveness, is a gift of God, and we can rejoice to try to make the most of the opportunities that He's given us with the bodies and the minds and the hearts and the souls that He's given us. And we can rejoice at the gains, insignificant as they might be, as we begin to feel a little bit better, to be able to move a little bit more, to be able to do maybe a little bit more skillfully the things that we've been working on to do. So I'd really encourage you as you're setting out on this, what are your goals and why are they your goals? I enjoy looking better, right? I'm not going to lie. I'm at the gym and I look in the mirror and sometimes I'll pull up a picture from last August when I was really starting. And I enjoy that I do look better. But the main thing I enjoy is that I feel better, right? I'm not constantly tired like I used to be, foggy, kind of zoning out, um, just feeling either up or down in unhelpful ways. I enjoy that I feel better, and enjoying feeling better isn't just for me. I enjoy feeling better now while I'm doing the tasks, carrying out the vocations that God has given me for others. And I think those around me would hopefully say that they have seen that too. It turns out when you do things you enjoy in a state where you can actually enjoy them, it's better than when you're doing things that you would otherwise enjoy, but you're not in a state to enjoy, and it becomes drudgery, and you can even come to sometimes despise those things, which is a really unhealthy place to be. And so, what are your goals? Think about your goals. The ultimate goal physically in this regard should just be your health. You've been given this body from God. It is the body He's given you, and what's the best we can do with it, with the opportunities that we have. We don't have 24 hours in a day to be in the gym, and we can't afford to eat exactly, the most perfect, healthiest food for every situation. But what's the best we can do with the opportunities we have to take care of it? And then you set those goals and then just enjoy the gains. And even if they're little gains, I'll tell you what, sometimes I go up 2.5 pounds on a lift. And that seems little to everyone else, but man, it's fun. It's just fun that I got to do that, and I hope you get to experience that too. We set our goals, we rejoice in our gains, should God grant them, and all of that is at the end of the day part of what it means to let the bird fly.